Yes.
How many do we have? Okay, well, you're counting. I'll read this. The public is invited to address the board on any matter not on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the board. Individual speakers are limited to 3. Okay, well, you're counting. I'll read this. The public are limited to 3 minutes each, and the total time for public input shall be limited to 20 minutes. Only one person is permitted to stand at the podium at the time. No speaker may relinquish a time allotment to another speaker. During public comments, the board listens to comments and issues. The board may ask questions for purposes of clarification, but the law prohibits the board from entering into a dialogue with the public or taking action on items that are not on the agenda. How many did you?
We
say?
have 7 speakers.
7, okay. You want to call the first one?
Lindsay,
Can I see the timer as well? Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Will the timer start when I start speaking? Oh, thanks. Good afternoon. My name is Lindsay Pell, and I'm an education attorney with Disability Rights California. Today, I will discuss how district practices for the Behavioral Special Day class, which I'll refer to as the STCB, conflict with guidance recently released by the U.S. Department of Education. Under district policy, students in the STCB are subject to the classroom's level system, under which the system permits students to lose access to lunch with non-disabled peers if they lose points. This system conflicts with the Department of Ed's guidance. The Department of Ed guidance states that a school may not discipline a student with a disability more severely than students without disabilities for similar behavior unnecessarily. The level system disciplines disabled students and only disabled students by denying them lunch outside their classroom. There's no legitimate pedagogical reason for this harsher punishment. The guidance states that special education supports and services must be based on peer-reviewed research to the extent practicable. Thus, behavioral supports should be supported by evidence. But the level system contradicts research which shows that taking away break time from students does not provide any benefit and instead is detrimental. Further, rather than providing individualized behavioral supports as the guidance requires, the level system is one size fits all and may not meet many students' needs. The district's over-reliance on SDCB placement also conflicts with the Department of Ed's guidance. The guidance makes clear that placing students into segregated settings like the SDCB must be a last resort option. So districts may only remove students from general education if they cannot progress, even with individualized supports. So these supports could include counseling, wraparound therapy, or a behavior intervention plan. The guidance states, in most cases, if the Section 504 plan has been implemented as designed, but still does not adequately address the disability-based behavior, the Section 504 team will be able to identify additional or different services to enable a student with a disability who is in the regular education environment to remain in that setting. They're saying that should be the case in most situations. But in the district, less than 1 in 3 disabled students have the opportunity to remain in the regular education setting for most of the day. During the 2021-22 school year, the district placed over 150 students into the SDCB, a number which more than doubled from the previous school year.
30 seconds.
However, the district likely segregated many of these students without first providing aids and supports. For instance, despite the SDCB supposedly being a setting for students with serious behavioral needs, nearly half of the students in that setting have no behavioral intervention plan. As the Department of Ed requires, the district must ensure that students have access to behavioral supports in all settings, including in general education, rather than unjustly segregating students into the SDCB. Thank you.
Chelsea Helena.
My name is Chelsea Elena, and I'm an education rights attorney at Neighborhood Legal Services of Los Angeles County. I'm here to speak again to the recent guidance from the United States Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights on avoiding discrimination on student discipline under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. While there are many important topics covered in this guidance that the district should make itself aware of, and make relevant changes in light of, I am speaking today to point out a problematic incongruency between OCR guidance and AVUHSD's administrative regulations. OCR guidance reminds us that public school districts have, as an express condition of receiving federal funds, a responsibility not to discriminate when it comes to students with disabilities in school discipline. While schools may lawfully impose discipline on students with disabilities, OCR reiterates that in order to avoid discrimination, schools and districts must make reasonable modifications to their criteria, policies, practices, and procedures when necessary. This could mean not applying a policy to students with disabilities at all when behaviors are manifestations of their disability. It could also mean modifying the policy as to students with disabilities, using de-escalation strategies, in the classroom setting, or having a person other than school-based law enforcement or school security communicate with the child and de-escalate. The issue here is that while OCR guidance states that districts must make reasonable modifications to discipline policies for students with disabilities, AVUHSD policy states that it will not make these accommodations. Administrative Regulation 5144.2 states that a student identified as an individual with disabilities pursuant to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is subject to the same grounds and procedures for suspension and expulsion which apply to students without disabilities. This policy is not only out of compliance with OCR guidance and Section 504, but it is also clearly harmful to the disabled students. AVUHSD, as a result of this policy and other discriminatory policies and practices, suspends students with disabilities at 2.5 times the rate of non-disabled peers, and Black students with disabilities at nearly 3.5 times the rate of their non-disabled peers. This administrative regulation has additional law enforcement consequences for students with disabilities. According to the discipline matrix adopted by all school site safety plans I believe by this board on May 18th of this year, potential consequences of school rule or education code violations could lead to a referral to law enforcement or to the district attorney. It is no wonder why nearly 2/3 of law enforcement citations and arrests went to Black students with disabilities in this district, and half of students handcuffed by law enforcement and security had disabilities. Thank you for your time.
Elvira. Elvira.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to express my concern on how the district policies for on-campus detention and student support center SSCs conflict with the guidance released by the U.S. Department of Education. District policy does not require staff to document removals to on-campus detention and the SSC as suspensions and report them to the CDE as such, nor does it require staff to document these removals in students' educational records, track the total days of removal, or hold MDRs for students with disabilities whose removals exceed 10 school days. This practice conflicts with the Department of Ed guidance. The guidance states a school's lack of appropriate record keeping regarding informal exclusions may cause the school to violate Section 504's FAPE requirements and procedural safeguards, including the documentation requirement for evaluation and placement decisions and the parents' or guardian's right to review the child's education records. Under the guidance, SSC's removals for disciplinary reasons should also count towards the 10 days of significant change in placement, but the district does not ever count these removals towards the 10 days. The guidance states Section 504 requires school districts to evaluate students with disabilities prior to any significant changes in the student's placement. In the context of a significant change of placement due to a proposed disciplinary removal, the purpose of the evaluation is to decide whether the behavior for which discipline is proposed is based on the student's disability, and if so, whether changes in the student's placement are required to ensure the students receive FAPE. Under Section 504, OCR's longstanding interpretation of a significant change in placement in the context of discipline has been an exclusion of more than 10 consecutive school days or a similar pattern of removal. Moving the students with a disability to a different classroom would not be a significant change in placement if the student could receive the same educational instruction, services, supports, interventions, and modifications to policies in the new classroom alongside students without disabilities to the same extent. SSC does not meet these criteria. In these settings, the district denies students full access to the GE curriculum. Students in campus detention are surveilled by campus security and sit without instruction or classwork. Students in the SSC have access to special education teachers for just 1 period per day. In both settings,
30 seconds.
students do not receive all of the specialized academic instruction and related services to their IEPs. After returning to the classroom, students are even further behind academically than they were before and are subjected to disability-based harassment that is so severe and pervasive that it creates a hostile learning environment. The repeated use of in-school suspension may indicate that a child's IEP or the implementation of the IEP does not appropriately address their behavioral needs.
Time.
Thank you.
Hal Steinberg,
Good afternoon, board. So my name is Hal Steinberg. As you know, I'm a steering committee member of Cancel the Contract. And I wanted to highlight something else interesting that has recently come out from the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights. You might have known that yesterday, the Office of Civil Rights released a settlement agreement with the Victor Valley Union High School District, the Victorville School District, on civil rights violations against particularly Black students. And what I find interesting about this settlement agreement, and this is coming to your district at some point too, is that when we look at school police, the school police situation, it mirrors what's happening in the school district. So in the Victor Valley School District, across the schools that issued citations from SROs, Black students were 3.4 times more likely to receive a clean sweep citation than white students. Here in this district, Black students are 60% of deputy contacts in Lancaster high schools, and they make up only 20% of the enrollment in those schools. And that comes from the office of the OIR's report recently that came from the county. And according to the San Bernardino County website, the Clean Sweep program, which they have, is the only juvenile citation program in the country that empowers school administrators to write citations for students who break the law on campus. Now, in AVUHSD, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department claims that most contacts are school-driven. The OIG report questions that fact and says that, in fact, most of the contacts are deputy created. But nonetheless, Black students involved in school calls by faculty and other administrators on school campuses in AVUHSD were 2 times more likely than Latino students and almost 6 times more likely than white students. So these disciplinary issues mirror what is happening in the Victor Valley School District. This is once again, the U.S. Department of Education entered into a settlement agreement. And I want to lift up one thing that Sophia, one of the students, said, and has also been told to me today as well, is that across the board, we have issues in this district. Another student told me that once again, they had looked for 40 minutes on campus to try to find a bottle of water to drink because all the vending machines were empty, basically. So when we talk about discipline discrimination, these are the type of things that also matter to the community. And last thing to tie it all into what has been said before, Mr. Milling earlier talked about
30 seconds.
teacher retention issues in this district. So I'm a second semester student teacher in a credential program at CSUN. I would love to teach in this school district, but you can't get teachers to teach in this school district, and you're not going to keep teachers in this school district if these issues continue to remain. So I would seriously consider, both as the union in your negotiations and also as the board, that you look for you look to make changes to this district to attract more teachers. Thank you.
Susie Calderon,
Okay. Okay. Hello again. So I just want to make sure that I'm also on a positive note, paying light to, since I was here last month, there have been 2 significant changes. I have been communicating with Mr. Barajas, and I know that I met him during the 9th grade orientation, and since then, we've been talking back and forth. So I just want to acknowledge that. Little Rock has hired a licensed clinical social worker and 2, I think 1 or 2 MSW degree counselors. So I think that's the step in the right direction. And that's exactly where all the school district should be looking at, is how we get more counselors into the schools to again address the mental health and mental wellness of this community. There are 2 parents here today that learned about all the things that Little Rock has been doing, as you're able to see in a PowerPoint presentation. I have another parent with me, another student with me as well. And I think it's important for them to see where the funding is going. And I think more of this needs to happen on the local level. So hiring more mental health personnel is exactly what we need. We need to address it because we need to decrease the interactions between students and resource officers so that there's less expulsions and suspensions. As far as the phone issues, I have been calling Little Rock, as you were able to see, since July for various reasons, and even today, there's still no repairs on the phone system. It looks like people at Little Rock don't care when a parent is not being called back. I fortunately was able to email Mr. Barajas. I was able to meet with him, but there are parents that are not getting a phone call, and it makes it look like faculty and other staff doesn't care. So I hope you're able to fix that sooner rather than later. I'm also here to discuss, just to follow up with the school accountability report card, right? So we know that it's an effective way for a school to report on its progress in achieving goals. So as far as pupil engagement, what is the plan to decrease the dropout rate? This is what I propose, so that you research and purchase a grad van that goes to unincorporated areas of Southeast Antelope Valley, like Little Rock, Juniper Hills, Pearl Blossom, Llano, for the visit to the at-promise students to provide them with information on alternative ways to graduate, offer tutoring, et cetera, et cetera. In rural areas, our youth become isolated and may not know about the resources to graduate on time, or maybe they just need to talk to an adult other than their parents about their academic future. The grad van could be an effective way of addressing truancy and absenteeism in our community. Many students facing family substance abuse, homelessness, and other disruptions all live in Little Rock. So the board should also understand that Little Rock is surrounded by unincorporated areas, typically with 2 worker households that work in LA or even further, and students
30
stay
seconds.
home to care for their siblings, for property or livestock. Their after-school activities are shot from the get-go. Choices to travel to and from school or after school are dependent on rides or the public system, which is not readily available, like in Palmdale or Lancaster. Finally, I just want to say that as far as the book that my daughter is using for the auto tech, it's called The Modern Automotive Technology, published in 2004. She's going to say a little bit more about that. And also, the bathroom latches in the restroom have not been fixed. I know I've talked to him already, and there's something to be fixed. But
Time.
please know, it's bad form when you have Febreze in your restrooms here, and the restrooms in our
Time.
kids are not good. Bad form.
Vivian,
I gotta talk very fast, but I want to say, Mr. Brian Hawkins, I've never given you, excuse me, I like to see my time. I have never given you the props that you should deserve, because you always at least try to give explanations on things when Dr. Ruffin asks you things, and you always have done that. So forgive me if I never really acknowledge you on that. But I'm going to read you guys something, because this is something I have to rush real quick. This is Stockdale and Anthony Hunts's brief that was given against me about saying that I told them that I called them the ones that said that they were the ones being called the nigger because of my poster board. We had to go to court because they were trying to get that $20,000 out of me. But listen to see how Brett Neal, I'm gonna blame you partly because you also were in collusion, like many of you all on this board was collusion in trying to make sure you defamed me when it came to the point of acting like there was a position that Joe Kelly was leaving or that Stockdale was able to get and he wasn't able to. And when I would ask for public records from you, Brett Neal, email, you would always make sure that I get the lowest paying thing. I couldn't look at transparent.com, but the attorney and the attorney that I had, and also the judge, was able to see through all that BS. So I'm gonna say this to you. Listen to what was happening about, oh wait, let me go back. So Anthony Hunt, the one that Jill McGrady cursed out Dr. Ruffin practically every time she couldn't get him promoted. He done resigned, right? Because you know what the judge also said? Maybe you were not qualified. So I'm gonna put that out there. He wasn't qualified, and you know he wasn't. So all that work that you did to disgrace and try to disgrace Dr. Ruffin, it's a shame. So now we got Julie Drake back on here that is against Dr. Ruffin, putting her face on here. You know good and well that Dr. Ruffin didn't do no damn investigation with having you on to look at it. But this is what Julie Drake does just to please herself, because she's being paid, like it's been alleged, all through the district under Dr. Vieira, right? And also, it's a sad thing that some of you have a problem with saying Dr. Ruffin, especially Julie Drake and AV Press, and you know how prejudiced they are, and I can say it because I know what they're about. I've been there. So let me tell you, let me read you something about Mr. Brandon Palmer, who had answered something about the lion-ass Mr. Stockdale, Stockdale Hunt and DJ Hines ought to be ashamed. You should have fired him long ago, because you know, and Chris Grader, you didn't come out to help anything. You should have fired him. But listen to how they try to put this case on me. Hey, on April the 1st of 2021, James Stockdale Brandon, not sure if you have seen it or not, but Joe Kelly announced to Facebook that his family is moving to Tennessee the end of the year. That means at least one principal will be moving up. And chain of reactions means that at the end there will be at least one BP spot open in the fall. I have my amends credential and would like to apply, but was wondering what you think about it. Don't got much time, but let me tell you what this man said. Sorry for the delay. I've been
30
responding.
seconds.
I wanted to think about it. I think that would be a bit complicated right now for you applying for leadership. To be frank, you've always been a certain way. I don't know if you knew this last year, but during a protest over the suicide situation, it's like you were put out there and saying that they were calling him a racist, and no one ever called him that. The courts ruled in my favor not to have to pay this district. Get off your behinds, do what's right for these kids, and stop acting like you got a problem with Dr. Ruffin, Dr. Victoria Ruffin.
Time.
Sophia Calderon,
I just want to congratulate you on your retirement, but my chemistry teacher also retired, but he retired in the middle of the school year. So we had a substitute, and that substitute didn't even teach chemistry. She taught biology. Same thing, I guess. But yeah, so we did the same thing that we did in the beginning of the year, and grades went down. Our art teacher also left Little Rock, but she went to East Side. So, and now we don't even have a sub to fill her. We don't even have a teacher to fill her position. So we have a substitute, and we don't know how long she's staying. My throat is a bit parched, just like yours. But that's because I didn't have any water today, because the water fountains don't even work. And if they did work, I can guarantee to you that that water would taste like crap. We can't even use the restroom without being scared of someone opening the door, because there are no locks. There is no privacy. We don't have that luxury. And yet you guys have Febreze. I find that a bit ridiculous. Books. I have an auto mechanics teacher, bless his soul, he's great. He teaches modern auto technology, but the books are from 2004. As you can imagine, technology has progressed a lot more from 2004 to 2022. There is some stuff that he has to teach himself. And today he was duct taping books together because they were falling apart from overuse. We have a band teacher teaching a yearbook class, and if he didn't do it, who would? We wouldn't have a yearbook. And I know your high school experience is a lot different than mine, because at least you had a decent yearbook, right? Not just a half-assed yearbook that a bunch of students who are unqualified for that are doing, taught by a teacher who is just trying his best teaching two completely different subjects. This new schedule is not working out. We get break after first period at 9:42. We have to wait 3 hours for lunch until 1. That means we get no breaks in between. We just go straight to class, and there's barely enough time to get from class to class. because they're so far apart. Yeah, that's all I got for you.
That concludes our comments for non-agendized items.
Thank you. All right, item number 7 is educational services, and this is an action item. Educational services review proposed revisions to board policy and administrative regulations for personnel services from CSBA's June 2022 recommended update. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees review the proposed revisions as presented in the first read, and this is for discussion only. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, discussion on item 7A?
Yes, Ms. Nguyen, this is Dr. Ruffin. I have a question and a concern.
Okay,
There has been a few people who came to the district, few teachers who came to the district expressing concerns about this. We've received several different emails. Just trying to make sure that this MOU, I mean, we got one just, a few days ago. This MOU is the MOU that they're referencing for the independent study, correct?
Mr. Nehan.
Dr. Ruffin, just to clarify, are you referring to the MOU that was pulled from the June agenda?
I'm referring to the concerns that teachers and different union representatives at schools have emailed board members and the cabinet in regards to the MOU issue. And they did reference that this MOU was pulled and that they did not feel that they were able to contribute to the ultimate decision of this MOU. I'm just trying to make sure that this is the right issue.
So we're on item 7A currently, which is board policy. I believe the item you're referring to is
8A.
which
Okay,
is the
yeah.
next section.
Okay, I thought she said 8A. Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion on 7A? Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll move on to item B, which is educational services review and adopt the personnel revisions to board policy 6158, independent study. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees review and adopt provisional revisions to board policy 6158 as presented. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Dr. Ruffin, was that you?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any discussion, questions, concerns?
Yes, just real quick, Ms. Nguyen. Is there an opportunity for the cabinet or Mr. Nehan to look into making sure that the board approving this board policy, that we're not approving it with possible violations for special education students? I know when I read through this, there are accommodations for our special education students with independent study. Has there been a sharp lens to make sure the board is being informed that we're not voting on something that would disenfranchise special ed kids?
Hi, Dr. Ruffin. This is Chandlin. Just wanted to let you know is through any student, any special ed student that is considered for independent study does go through the IEP process to determine whether or not that placement would be appropriate, and all of the students' services and needs can be addressed through that program. So through the IEP process, it is addressed and made sure that the students' needs can be met within that least restrictive environment.
Okay, thank you. That's done before they're placed there. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, discussions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Student but board member, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pearl?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady? Aye. Mr. Rush? Ms. Nguyen is an aye as well, and the motion passes 5-0 with student board member recommending a yes vote. Item 8 Health Services action items, item 8A, Antelope Valley Union High School District AVTA collective bargaining MOU regarding independent study. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the agreement with AVTA as presented. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Perrell and a second by Ms. McGrady. Any discussion, questions, concerns?
I think I had already asked a question about that, Ms. Nguyen. If they could answer it, it'd be great.
Dr. Ruffin, I'm sorry, could you please repeat the question? I didn't quite hear it.
Sure. So various teachers who are lead union representatives within the Antelope Valley Union High School District have reached out to the board with concerns about this MOU. So I'm trying to understand whether or not the union has met with those representatives prior to this vote to discuss these issues, or is that delayed, or where we stand with that?
I appreciate, I'll answer that to the best of my ability. The agreement that we have with Antelope Valley Teachers Association is an agreement. We go through our internal process. We bring that to the board. I know that the teachers union has a process with themselves. When we hear those questions, we do refer those to the leadership. I know that we've had those conversations, and Mr. Millings has reached out and had conversations with his members. Those are conversations that we don't have any, we're not privy to the outcome of that, but I'm assured that Mr. Millings and his leadership team have had those conversations with their members.
Thank you.
Concerns, discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. Student board member, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pearl?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, hold on just a second. Okay. Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen is an aye as well, and motion passes 4 yeses with 1 abstain, and the student board member recommending a yes vote. Item B, revised 2022-23 certificated school calendar. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the revised 2022-23 certificated school calendar. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Perrell and a second by Ms. McGrady. Any discussion, questions?
Ms. Whitten, if
concerns?
I may, for clarification, you may have remembered that this has already been approved calendar. However, with the change in our late start, we did some revising of the calendar. The only change here really deals with the finals schedule. Historically, we have 3 minimum days for finals. We have now moved it to 2 minimum days for finals.
Oh, okay. All righty. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Student board member, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen is an aye as well, and so the motion passes by a vote of 5 yes to 0 no's, and the student board member recommending a yes vote. Item C, approval of provisional internship permit. Do we have any more PIPs or just that one? Oh, no, it's
Just that one.
Okay. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Burrell and a second by Mr. Rush. Any discussion, question, concerns?
I just wanted to share that I asked, like I do every board meeting where a PIP, a STIP, and a VTW is listed, what the status is of these individuals. And just to clarify, the response back is that they are all on track to become permanent teachers. Is that correct?
Yes, if I may, many of these teachers are substitute teachers that are working on their credential. And as soon as they get to the point where we can hire them with a full contract, whether it's provisional permit, short-term, or even a waiver, we do so. So yes, they are in route of completing their credential.
Okay, and but in the response, they will be permanent teachers, right?
They are under contract, correct.
Okay,
They
thank
are
you.
under contract from a standpoint of a temporary, so to speak, for this school year. They need to complete their provisional requirements, and then they can be brought back for the next school year.
Thank you.
Concerns? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Mr. Delgado?
Aye.
Ms. Pearl?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen is an aye as well, and so the motion passes by a vote of 5-0, with student board member recommending a yes vote. Item D, approval of short-term staff permit, STSP. Items D and E are the same approvals, just different people. With the board's consensus, we'll take both of them at the same time. Anybody have a problem with that? Concern?
Nope.
Nothing? Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion, second.
Have a motion by Ms. McGrady and a second by Ms. Pearl. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Mr. Delgado, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pearl?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen is an aye as well, and so both STIPs pass with vote of 5-0, with the student board member recommending a yes vote. Item F, approval of variable term waiver. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve and direct the Assistant Superintendent of Personnel Services to submit a variable term waiver, allowing this individual, excuse me, to teach the subject areas indicated. May I have a motion?
Motion, second.
Motion by Ms. Pearl, a second by Ms. McGrady. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Student board member, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pearl?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen is an aye as well, and so the motion passes 5-0, with student board member recommending a yes vote. Number 9, business services action item, public hearing. Open, conduct, and close a public hearing on resolution number 2022-23-02, grant an easement to Southern California Edison. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees open, conduct, and close a public hearing on resolution number 2022-23-02 regarding granting an easement and right-of-way to Southern California Edison. I'm going to open the hearing at 6:46. Comments from staff.
If I might, please, a grant of an easement means that we're simply giving the right to a business or to an individual to use part of our property for a specific purpose. In this case, we are granting to Southern Cal Edison the right to put a telephone pole support. And in your agenda, I think if you go down a little bit, there is a picture of the support that comes down, and that's a safety support for that telephone pole. So the support will take up about an 8-inch round circumference, and it's about 4 total square feet just inside our fence line. And Southern Cal Edison has asked for this as a safety item for the telephone pole itself.
Do we have to do any re-fencing?
No, it will go over the top of the fence.
Oh, okay. Any comments from the board? Do we have any comments from the public on this item?
I don't have any comments from the public.
Okay, then we will close the hearing at 6:47. Okay, and move on to item B, which is adoption of the resolution 2022-23-02, grant an easement to Southern California Edison. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt resolution number 2022-23-02, the grant of an easement and right-of-way to Southern California Edison, and authorize Brian Hawkins as an authorizing agent to execute the grant of easement on behalf of the district. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
A motion by Ms. Pearl and a second by Ms. McGrady. Any other questions, concerns? Discussion, hearing none. I'll call for the vote. Mr. Delgado, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pearl?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen is an aye as well, and so the motion passes by a vote of 5-0 with the student board member recommending a yes vote. Item C, consultant agreement with Brian Hayes, DSA, inspection services for various projects. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the 2-year consultant agreement with Brian Hayes for DSA inspection services in support of various small projects through the district, and authorize Brian Hawkins to execute the agreement on behalf of the district. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Pearl and a second by Ms. McGrady. Any questions, concerns, discussion?
Yes, Mr. Hawkins, I believe the response back to me was from you. I want to say, it didn't say who responded. Mr. Nehan gave it. But I noticed in the response, it said, this is for internal small projects that are generally under 65,000. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Just saying specific, I know he's asking for 30, but for every time that a project comes up, because I question what are considered the many, because it's a generalization, correct? So you explained that it's cell phone towers that are erected on our properties, or installation of air conditioning systems for the PHS band room. But I recall in other votes that we've done that it was a different company that we awarded that contract to. So that's why it's confusing to me. So I know we've voted several times on like air conditioning systems, but it wasn't the same. It just seems like we're double dipping a little bit. That's where my confusion is.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. The other air conditioning projects did not require a DSA. These are for projects where you have structural changes to the building where you are required to have a DSA. That is the State Department of Architect that approves the plans, and then the inspector ensures that those plans, that the construction is built to those plans. So these are for small projects that we have. If we bid out a large project, we will also generally bid out the DSA inspection services because it will exceed the $65,000. So for example, if we were to build a new school, that contract would be in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, because it would take up 2 to 2.5 years to build a new high school. So these are for small projects. We have, we've done several cell phone towers where they've gone in and replaced the light stand on a football field and put the lights back on for us, and it becomes a cell phone tower. Those are small projects, and those we require a DSA because there is structural involved in the pole holding the lights to see that it is safe for staff, students, and parents to be around those poles should it get windy. So does that answer your question?
Somewhat. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. The bigger projects that you mentioned are contracted out, and they are not all encumbersome with inclusiveness of the DSA. And since they're not, this is why we're choosing and opting for a DSA inspector for the smaller amount. Clear? Is that right?
I believe so. You have the general idea of it. There are projects we do that do not require a DSA inspector, so we don't hire one. So for example, on the air conditioning units, we don't need a DSA because we're not changing structural, the facility in a structural manner.
Got it. So this one's, we are changing the facility. It's clear. I'm clear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Student board member, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pearl? Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Mr. Rush? Ms. Nguyen is an aye as well, and so our motion passes 5-0 with student board member recommending a yes vote. Item 10 is administrative services action items. Adopt resolution number 2022-23-06. Increase board member compensation. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt resolution number 2022-23-06 to increase board member compensation. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Perrell, second
Second.
by Ms. McGrady. Do I have any discussion?
Yes, this is Dr. Ruffin again. Just for the record, I don't believe that we as board members, especially for the work that we have done, considering what many people in the community have discussed in regards to academic success, given a clear vision and mission that is relevant and appropriate to new academic trends and supports for our community and our students. I don't believe that we need a raise at this time.
Okay, anybody else have any discussion? I have just a little bit of history. If this agenda item passes, it would be the fourth time in 110 years that the board would receive an addition to their stipend. When I left the board in 2015, the stipend was $400 a month. In 2016, the board voted to raise the stipend. In 2017, the board voted to raise the stipend. And in 2018, the board voted to raise the stipend. And the total stipend increase would be $23.15 a month.
A month.
A month. And like I said, that's $23.15 a month. And like I said, it's only the fourth time in Antelope Valley Union High School District history in 110 years.
So I'll add my second comment because I know we're entitled to two. When I asked for the history, I actually asked for it to go back further than this. And I was told that it would be intensive. It's interesting because board members should be able to be given the information they need to make an informed decision. But rather than that, I'm going to lean more on our fiduciary responsibilities and our responsibilities to our main stakeholders, which is our students and our families. And if we ask ourselves as a board, I mean, I know two board members on this board talk consistently about the number and the amount of years that they've been on this board, but I'm more concerned with the number of years we've been on this board and we're actually moving the needle of academic success for these kids. We heard today that there are 60% of Black kids who only make up 17% of the district who are severely overrepresented in special education and disciplinary actions. I can go into further detail about that, but it's been, greatly presented to us by various people over a substantial amount of months. And I'm more focused on not just the dollar amount. If we're really doing this for the purpose of our students and being impactful and not just standing in on the status quo, most people would do it for free. I know I haven't gotten stipends from this board for at least like 9 months at a time. So that's not why I'm here. But I would like for us to be more accountable in our actions and our responsibilities of what Ed Code says that a school board member should be accountable for when we're thinking about receiving any compensation.
And questions, concerns? Hearing none, Mr. Delgado, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Perrell? Aye. Dr. Ruffin?
No.
Okay. Ms. McGrady?
Yes.
Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen is a yes as well, and so the motion passes by a vote of 4 yeses to 1 no, with the student board member recommending a yes vote. Item 11 is approve the consent agenda. Approve items listed on the following consent agenda categories: educational services, student services, personnel services, business services, and administrative services. Actions proposed for the consent agenda are items consistent with adopted policies and approved practices of the district and are deemed routine in nature. The board will be asked to approve all of the items in the consent agenda by a single vote unless any member of the board asks that an item be removed from the consent agenda to be considered and discussed separately. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the items listed in the following consent agenda categories, and that would be education services, student services, personnel services, business services, and administrative services as presented. Does anybody have any ones that they'd like to vote on separately or discuss separately?
Ms. Nguyen, I believe we need a motion and a second to get it on the floor first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to
Yes,
make the
we do.
motion. Second.
Who did that? It was Ms. Farrell, we all did. Ms. Farrell made the motion, and I'm going to say Mr. Rush seconded it. And so now it's on the floor for, thank you, Mr. Nehan, I appreciate that.
Yes, I would like
You
to
wanna
pull
pull?
items. Yes,
Okay,
I would like to pull item 12A, which is educational services approved career technical education employment advisory committee. That's for a vote and discussion.
okay,
I would like to pull 12I as in India, educational services approved purchase of uninterrupted power supplies.
and is that for vote or discussion or both?
That's for vote and discussion.
Okay,
I would like to pull 12J. It's for vote and discussion.
okay,
13D, student services. It's the agreement for professional services, STS 23048. Actually, that's just for a discussion,
okay,
13D. And 15L, which is food services. Wait a minute, sorry about that. I said 13D. 13I is also for discussion.
13I,
Yes, I as in Idaho.
okay, just discussion only?
Yes.
Okay.
And then 15L is food services, the approval of the award in student and faculty vending services for the 2022-2023 school year. That's for discussion and vote. And then my last one is 15M, which is food services, request for proposal, purchase, complaint, package, snack, and beverages. That's for a vote.
And I would like to, just for discussion only, 15A. So, why don't we, you have, hold on, I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's do your discussion items, which is just 2 of them that I can tell. And that would be 13B and then 13I. And then the rest are require a vote, and then my 15A. So Dr. Ruffin, let's go with your discussion on 13B.
Okay, 13B is in David. So this is a program that by Anzar Stan El Muhammad of the Helper Foundation, and I had the opportunity to put a question out there to Mr. Nehan. Ms. Williams responded back, and I want to give a lot of credit to the fact that I was aware prior to talking to Ms. Williams that this was a program that's been supported in several schools on the east side and some of the work that they've been doing with our at-promise students. So I appreciate the fact that they're helping these students who are struggling in some capacity with the attendance, the behaviors, and trying to make sure that they get back on track. But my concern for the board is with this is that we are just continuing to support services. And even though we're extending it, I think that this was at a rate of like $95,000. Are we doing any tracking of the efficacy of this program and looking at this program from the extent where we can have some sustainability, right? Just in case this funding source is not there in the future. So we keep adding to, but are we really collecting data to see whether or not at some point we may need to shift to another program? So maybe the board should consider having these programs that we just automatically re-trigger, come and report out to the board and show us and show the board and the community how effective these programs have been and the ways in which we can continue to support them or provide other support. So that's my discussion on 13D.
To add to that.
There wasn't a question there. We absolutely, Ms. Williams and I talked about tracking this program. It's been successful the last 4 years, but that's mostly anecdotal. So she will work with Mr. Mohammed to put in some benchmarks and some data.
Thank you, Mr. Nehan. So then I'll shift, if I can, Ms. Board President, to 13I, Ms. Nguyen, the discussion. Are we ready to shift?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, no worries. So this is student services. This is a memorandum of agreement for Admissions Youth Travel LLC. And I think that this is a good effort of the district to support student achievement in this capacity. I wish we had the diversity assessment, of course, that I requested in 2019 that could further support the driving force behind this. But I do believe that this is a good idea. And I'm going to go back to, it's not just about pushing money to a certain event that's centered around, historically Black colleges and universities. It's also about us being able to have benchmarks, some credibility around, the effectiveness of how these programs come about. Ms. Williams did discuss with me, this was one of the efforts that was made out of the Black student unions who were meeting and really supporting students. We're giving them a global option of college career choices. So I just would like for us not just to be spending money and putting it toward any group of students without some real hardcore transparency and responsibilities as to how we plan to really zone in on the effectiveness of the programs so that we don't just have this as a one-shot issue, something that we can try to incorporate as we continue to grow and deal with the issues of equity. So that's 13I.
Thank you. And then mine was 15A of always want to make sure that the people who make donations to the students of our district are thanked. It's the least that we can do for their generous nature of making donations and making sure that our students maybe have a little extra on things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So thank you to all of those people who made donations listed in item 15A. Okay, so we've got all the discussion items covered. So I'd like to call for the vote, eliminating 12A, 12I, 12J. Hold on. And 15L and 15M.
Yes.
Okay. May I, any other discussions? Okay, then. I'll call for the vote. Student board member, how do you vote?
A.
That's all right.
I'm
Ms.
with you.
Burrell? Aye. Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen is a yes as well, and so that portion of our consent agenda passes with a vote of 5-0 with student board member recommending a yes vote. Okay, now 12A, Dr. Ruffin.
Yeah, so my
Oh, I'm sorry, we need a motion. Motion.
second,
Motion. So Ms. Pearl, you made the motion?
Yep.
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
a second.
I don't know, maybe.
I'm sorry. So the motion is for 12A, 12I, 12J. Is that all right, Dr. Ruffin? We lump them all
Yes,
together?
yes, yes,
Okay. And 15 L and M.
yes.
So I've got the motion by Ms. Pearl and a second by Dr. Ruffin. All right, discussion on 12A.
Yeah, so my question was, how was the Career Technical Education Employer Advisory Committee and Career Prep Council determined? And how many parents, students, or Black community members are on this committee? And the response back was, this committee is designed to address the labor market economic development needs, and it consists of members of AVUHSD, local educators, and those involved in career technical education. The committee members are appointed after expressing interest. We do not collect demographic data on the Career Prep Council. The goal is to try to make sure that all local industry sectors are represented. The next committee in development will be the CTE stakeholder group, which will more closely represent the demographics of all CTE stakeholders and will address the programmatic needs. So my concerns with this committee is it is not reflective of the issues that have been addressed consistently and persistently from various members within our communities. If we're talking about career technical education and employer advisory committees, and we just had a presentation from Little Rock High School and these supports that LACO has done, and all of these extensions of support for this specific population, it would seem right for us to have representation from students on this committee, from parents on this committee, from people within the community where these career technical education, opportunities are going to be impactful. And when I see some of the names of the people on this community, it makes me very suspect as to how are those individuals, other than them living in this community, really connected to these efforts and what is, the agenda behind that. So I do believe that the board, the superintendent needs to do a better job with making sure that these advisory committees have representation from students and the populations within our communities that are impacted across this board from every one of these 5 regions that represents the Antelope Valley Union High School District, so that they have a voice in that space when the decisions are made about their career and tech options. That's my discussion on 12A, and we can vote on it if you want to vote now.
Discussion, questions, concerns on 12A? Okay, moving on to 12I.
12I. So for 12I, this is in regards to the purchase of uninterrupted power supplies. The response was that 7 different vendors submitted 3 different solutions. And after evaluating all the submissions, that only one CWG was chosen as the most effective because they were the only ones that submitted. I think that that's not sufficient enough for us. If 7 vendors submitted and they had 3 different vendors and we only chose, we're evaluating all the submissions, but only one was chosen because they were considered to be most effective solution, but it's not really telling what that solution is. I think that that's something that the board should look into a little bit more deeper. And that's my discussion on 12. Aye.
Dr. Ruffin, just a point of clarification, CDWG was the most cost-effective solution, and that's why it was chosen.
Okay, most cost effective. Okay. But not that they were the better company. It was just the cost.
I think it's inclusive of cost-effective, so it's the value, not the price.
Okay. And then for 12J?
Oh, I was just going to ask if anyone else had any
Okay.
comments on 12I? Any other discussion? Hearing none, 12J.
Thank you. So this order, so my question here, is this the only company we have considered for the $355,347.38? The response from back was this order is placed under the USETPA contract 12103 IT equipment and services and already approved by the USAC E-rate. We requested a list of eligible vendors from the USETPA and requested bids for those. Only CDWG responded to the bid, so they were awarded the contract. I'm not sure why we didn't wait to hear from others and just went with what we had, maybe because it was one that we've used previously, but I just would have wanted to see something else for that huge amount to see if something had changed over the years. And that was my discussion for 12J.
Dr. Ruffin, this is Chris Grado. How you doing?
Hi, how are you, Dr. Grado?
Thank you. This is under the E-rate system, and the E-rate, the organization that the USETPA actually has a list of vendors, and CDWG was the only vendor that they came back with that was eligible for the E-rate from us. So, and that whole amount isn't what we pay. We pay the 76,000, which is the 20% for E-rate.
Oh, okay, great. That wasn't in the response that was given back, Dr. Grado. So that changes my vote on this one. Thank you so much. Ms. Nguyen, can we vote for this one right now? Because all the other ones is going to be a no, but this one is going to be a yes. So can you call for the vote for this one?
Are you sure? You want to listen to the comments on the other ones first, and then we can.
Oh, if it's going to be a shift. Thank you. That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
You only have the other two food services, so let's take those two, and then if you still want to pull item 12J, we can do that.
Thanks.
Let's do the 15L first.
Sounds good. So for food services approval and award in student and faculty vending services for the 2022-2023 school year, I've had concerns about this, and I spoke about this extensively with Dr. Vieira when he was the superintendent. And if you look at D, and it talks about the consideration and proposal to be paid to the district and the site ASBs, then it says B, proposed revenue sharing arrangement and revenue stream, and then the quality of financial safeguards. My concerns with Dr. Vieira was from a previous financial audit that was done, and it mentioned that some of the things that we should look at more extensively was our ASB and how those monies were flowing through there, because there wasn't accountability for it. And when I saw that this was looking at somewhere between the guise of $40,000 to $65,000 of monies being exchanged, and we don't exactly have some oversight of that, it kind of brought red flags to me. And that was pretty much my same concern with 15M, why I pulled it, because these are big contracts and we're continuing them, but I do believe that there needs to be more intense oversight, and that is our fiduciary responsibility as board members. And those are my discussions for 15L and 15M.
Hi, Dr. Ruffin. This is Brian Hawkins. Two things. One, those dollar amounts are for all school sites. So when you divide it out by including our adult ed, that includes the district office. So when you look at it, there's about 19 different locations. So that gets split out. Secondly, the state of California started last year or the year before, where we now monitor the ASB accounts, and all ASB accounts roll up into a special fund that is in our budget. So there is some oversight on the ASBs for that. Secondly, when you divide it out by about 19 locations and understand that at each of the school sites, one set of vending is for students because they can only have the USDA approved nutritional snacks. So you can't have potato chips and you can't have soda pop in them. In the teacher's lounge is where we would put the soda pop and the potato chips and Snicker bars. So it is split up two different ways. And we do have oversight over the ASBs now.
Okay, thank you for that. I just haven't seen it, especially when I talked to the last representative too that was doing our soft audit, because he didn't do a forensic one. We did discuss these issues, and he hadn't brought up the ASB issue at that time. So I'm ready to vote, Ms. Nguyen, if you guys are. I'm done with the discussion.
Did you want to pull item 12J?
Yeah,
You
I'm
want to
still,
vote on all of these together then?
yeah, we can vote on all of them with the exception of, well, I'm gonna vote no. If you want to just make it quicker, I'm gonna vote no on all of them except for 12J. So I don't know if you want to just say, call for the vote for 12A, 12I,
It's
15L and 15M.
It doesn't make a difference to me to make it quicker. It's just what you
Okay.
feel that you would like to have your vote represent.
Do we need to modify the motion?
I would
Yep.
suggest that we do everything with the exception of 12J separately and then do a separate motion for 12J.
I need a motion then. for
Motion.
12.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Pearl and a second by Dr. Ruffin. We're voting on item 12J, Educational Services, approve the purchase and installation of fiberglass optic equipment, EDS 2022-23-046. Student board member, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pearl?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen is an aye as well, and so that motion passes for item 12J by a vote of 5-0 with student board member voting yes. Okay, so then the rest are all in the next vote, which will be 12A, 12I, 15L, and 15M. Is that correct, Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Okay, we already have a motion for that by Ms. Pearl and a second by Dr. Ruffin. Any more discussion?
Nope.
Student board member, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Pearl?
Aye.
Ms. McGrady?
Yes.
Dr. Ruffin?
No.
Rush?
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen is a yes as well, and so the motion passes by a vote of 4-1 with student board member recommending a yes vote. Okay, we move on to closed session.
17A. 17A from the board and superintendent.
Oh, I'm sorry, from the board and superintendent. I don't have closed session anyway yet. Are you getting that ready, Mr. Nehan?
It's ready.
Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and go with 17A, and that would be comments from the board and the superintendent. And let's start with Mr. Rush. Yeah, you. I know, I'm starting with you.
Smooth start of the year, and I'll be brief so that you can go home. I know everybody's ready to go home. That's a hint that video is following.
What? Oh, I have a story to tell. Is that it?
That's it.
Oh, Ms. Pearl.
I guess I want to say it's a great start to the new year. I have both my kids in the, wow, god dang, I think it's so close. I have both my kids in the high school district, so it's actually nice to see how they're starting off well and adjusted and how everyone's doing well starting off. So it's been a nice smooth transition. I guess it's obvious that 3 of us didn't pull papers, so this is a nice way to end everything. The next 3 board meetings will be nice to see how everything's going to be going. I want to wish the 3 people in my district best of luck in my district, Raquel, Juan Blanco, and Carla. It'll be an interesting race, how everything's going to be going, and also in Area 1 and Area 5 as well. I guess that's pretty much all I want to say. I know October, I'm supposed to be going to Troy High School. I went a couple years ago. It was for JROTC Navy. They do the tug of war. And they compete. It's a whole bunch of different events that they do all day, which is actually really neat. And at the very end, they get so tired at the tug of war is where they compete against each other. It's all the different ROTCs. And AV High School is always wins. So I told them that I wanted to go and see them do it again this time around. When I went the last time, the prior year, they only won 3 awards. And when I went, they won 7 with the tug of war. So this will be my next time that I'll be able to see them. So it'd be really neat to see to end my time as a board member to watch them. So that's pretty much all I want to be able to say. So everyone have a good night. I know it's going on 7:30. So I know everyone wants to be able to go home. So, and this is actually kind of nice ending it this way. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Dr. Ruffin?
Absolutely. So I am so excited, and I want to first give major props to Mrs. Orozco. She is absolutely amazing, always professional, all the work that she has to do with getting us our agendas and just the information out and being a big support. I just want to let you know that you're appreciated, and thank you so much for all that you do. I also want to give a special shout out to the class of 2023. This is such a unique class. They spent 2022, they spent 2021, and they spent 2020 in a pandemic. So they have a unique space in K-12, and they're in just trying to come out as seniors. So I'm just giving them a lot of love and their families, and just as we still push through this pandemic. I also want to, congratulate all of our staff, our teachers and our support staff who are committed to making sure that our kids are successful, and also to all of our community members and the constituents who graciously come out to express their concerns and let this board know what's going on with them. I would be remiss if I did not address these bogus and slanderous claims that are out in the paper from this investigative Fruits Ruffins claims. And it's so amazing. I don't even ever look at any of this nonsense, but board member Perel told me that this article was out. And I thought it was interesting because since I've been on this board, I have experienced constant attitude of dismissal from board members with some, intentional and selected staff, but not all. We have some amazing teachers and staff in our district within the Antelope Valley School District. And, I understand that Miss Julie Drake is a part of this collective pack that echoes the sentiments from complaints of Blacks living in the Antelope Valley. These sentiments were expressed extensively in 2013 and in 2020 from the Department of Justice. And as currently as June 15, 2020, in the report regarding allegations of racial disparities in contacts with high school students by the Sheriff's Department in Lancaster Station. And within the last year, ProPublica, in conjunction with KPPC, published an article on racial injustice that is identical to the issues that Black kids bear to brunt while in this district. So when I think about how the recent information from the Office of the Inspector General that many attorneys have come out and talked about in their findings, their reports corroborate the findings regarding the desperate treatment of Black students in the Antelope Valley with regard to discipline and academic success. So similarly, that treatment of Black students, 60% with them only making up 17% of the student body, is not a siloed group. Black teachers, Black administrators, and this Black board member has been a recipient of those behaviors as well. So I just wanted to clarify something. The behaviors that were noted in this report by Ms. McGrady and John Rush are not new. On or about September 15, 2017, and I have this letter because it was given to me, attorney Stephen Horth submitted a hostile work environment from Bob Davis regarding Mrs. McGrady's behaviors toward him. I have it down to read exactly out what these harassments look like that mirrored exactly what I reported. but I'm gonna spare us that. I'm not gonna even read through it, but anybody in the community that wants it, please email me so I can send you a copy. But what I want to say is, you know, it's not, I look forward to speaking with everybody who's reached out to me about these issues. And I am going to have a legal action and a recourse to this, right? All of the documentation that I sent and in the ways in which that this is slanderous, I never asked for an investigation from the Antelope Valley Union High School District. Dr. Victoria Ruffin did not ask the Antelope Valley Union High School District to investigate these claims because, like I've always stated, and how parents have stated, I knew that you guys would not do an investigation on yourself. So I went to the civil grand jury, I went to the county council, I went to the district attorneys, I went to Tony Thurman, I went to the ethics department, I went to the National Association and Council of Colored People, NAACP, on a state level. I went to the ethics department. I went to the FBI. I went to all of these. I went to Sidney Comlager Dove, Holly J. Mitchell to place my complaint. And here's the deal. The Department of Education never said that my complaint wasn't warranted. They said that they could not do it. And they did not charge the Antelope Valley Union High School District to do the report either. However, they decided to do it, which is a targeted and a slanderous attack. So when people put out these false allegations, just know that the report that you guys did is not the report from the entities that have any right to address my concerns as an elected official. I am not an employee of the Antelope Valley Union High School District. That means that I cannot be under a uniform complaint. I don't work for you guys. I'm an elected official. So it's interesting that the parties that are involved don't even know the brevity of how in-depth this investigation is. But I can see that it has been impactful because I've seen a lot of people, like as soon as I sent this report out in June, at the end of May and June, Dr. Vieira said that he was leaving the district and retiring. And then after that, you know, several other people stepped down. So I know that the works that I've done, I know that the works that the community members are doing, I know that the works that we're bringing to light are having an impact internally in this district. And I will be publicly responding to these allegations and this report that is unfounded and is jaded. And those are my comments for now.
Sure, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Delgado. It's so nice to have our students represented, and I hope you have a wonderful year. We are just very, very happy to have you here. And it seems like just almost that circle of life, if you think about it, that we're saying welcome to our student board member, and at the same time, we're saying goodbye, Mr. Neal. And thank you so much for your 35 years of service to our district, for you and your wife. And please give those grandchildren a hug for us and know that you will be missed. And we thank you so much for your service and all of the years that you've worked for us. Thank you all for what you've done to start the school year. I know sometimes those first week or two are difficult. And what I'm hearing is that it's going pretty well, that kids are coming to school and they're learning, and thank you so much. That's all I have.
Mr. Delgado.
Thank you. I just want to give a thanks to the board for their kindness, giving me this great opportunity to represent our students of the Antelope Valley High School District. I hope that I represent all of them fairly and justly. Second thing I want to say is that I had the opportunity the other day to volunteer at the SOAR Pondo campus, which is another amazing opportunity for kids to really dual enroll in college and high school. I'm part of the SOAR program myself. It's an amazing opportunity, and I'm glad to see that the freshmen there are the same, I want to say, they have the same mindset as SOAR kids here. So I'm glad that the distance doesn't make so much of a difference. And I'm really excited to see what the legacy class of 2026 has to offer. But I'll keep it brief. That's all I had to say. I have biology homework I have to get to. So that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nehan.
In keeping with Mr. Rush's admonishment, I will be brief. Want to welcome Mr. Delgado up to the dais. It's a pleasure to have you and look forward to working with you. And to my longtime colleague, Brett, I wish you the best in retirement. We're going to miss you.
That's. I guess that's me. And welcome, Mr. Delgado. I hope that you enjoyed. If you have any questions, any one of us are willing to help you and answer anything that you might need or have questions for. Please just let us know. And I'm kind of ignoring Mr. Neal's retirement. If I ignore it, maybe you won't actually leave. I wish you all the best. And thank you so much. You were principal when my girls were in school, and I thank you for, from the very beginning, thank you for staying in the Valley. Thank you for being a teacher. Thank you for being an administrator. Thank you for being on our board. Thank you. And I have just a real quick story that I want to tell. I attended the SOAR South Valley grand opening, and I was telling somebody how SOAR started, and they were kind of surprised. SOAR actually started with banana pancakes. Dr. Zimmerman, who I had known for quite a while, called me up and said, "Hey, let's go for banana pancakes. I got a question. I got something I want to show you." And so we sat down, and there on the table, she just started pulling out papers and pamphlets and leaflets and everything about early child education. She, early high school, college child education. She was so passionate, and our banana pancakes came, and we kind of shoved them off to the side. It's actually one of her very favorite things is banana pancakes, and continued to talk about college and college for our high school students. So it was so exciting, and she was so passionate. And at the end, she said, "What do you think? Do you think the district will go for something like this? Do you think, how do I do it? What do I do? How do I present it?" And so we made an appointment and with Dr. Vieira, and she presented her paperwork, and the banana pancakes were great too, by the way. So I was excited to see South Valley open. Thank you to everybody that made that happen. I was explaining to somebody that normally after SOAR has picked all of their students, I normally get phone calls from parents who say, "Well, my kid didn't make it." And they were so heartbroken. They wanted to make it into SOAR. So now we have another opportunity for them to do so. So thank you to all of you. Mr. Nehan, thank you for making that happen for our students. And with that, I will quickly read out a closed session. In closed session, Ms. Pearl, Ms. McRady, Mr. Rush, myself were present. Dr. Ruffin was not present. Item 18A, in closed session, the board held a conference with labor negotiations, Mr. Brett Neal, regarding certificated bargaining unit, and B classified bargaining unit, and unrepresented group, and the board gave direction. Item 18C, during closed session, the board considered employee appointment title, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, and by a vote of 4-0, with board member Perrell and McGrady, Rush, and Wynn voting yes, they approved the appointment of Christine Ramos to Assistant Superintendent. Item 18D, during closed session, the board considered a request to waive healthful living for Antelope Valley Union High School District student, and by a vote of 4-0, the board took action to approve the request. Item 18E, during closed session, the board considered a request to waive healthful living for Antelope Valley Union High School District student, and by a vote of 4-0, the board took action to approve the request. Item 18F, during closed session, the board considered final settlement and release agreement number STS-23-021, case number 2022040076, and by a vote of 4-0, the board took action to approve this settlement. Item 18G, during closed session, the board considered final settlement and release agreement STS-23-022, case number 2022020614, and by a vote of 4-0, the board took action to approve the final settlement and a release agreement. Item 18H, during closed session, board considered final settlement and release agreement STS-23-023, case numbers 2022050231, and by a vote of 4-0, the board took action to approve the final settlement and release agreement. Item 18I, during closed session, the board considered compromise and release agreement STS-23-024, case number 2022050111, and by a vote of 4-0, the board took action to approve the compromise and release agreement. Item 18J, during closed session, the board considered claim number 22-0706001, and by a vote of 4-0, the board took action to reject, the claim. Item 18K, during closed session, the board considered the case of anticipated litigation, but the board took no action. And that's all we did in closed session. So we, I would like a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion, second.
You got it. Oh, no, I'm not done. To adjourn the meeting in memory of Russell Pierce, who was a teacher for the Antelope Valley Union High School District, and Deborah Dillon, who was an educational aide. Russell Pierce was hired as a teacher in 1959 and served the district for over 30 years. Deborah Dillon was hired as an instructional aide in 1984 and served the district for 25 years. May I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Rush, a second by Ms. Perrell. Student board member, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Perrell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruffin?
Yes.
Ms. McGrady?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen is a yes as well, and we are out of here. Thank you, everyone.